Uprooted stories from the Sri Lankan Tamil diaspora. Ana.Pararajasingham அவர்களுடையது. அதை அறிமுகப்படுத்தி நிகழ்வை கொண்டு செல்வதற்காக திரு இளங்கோ அவர்களை அன்புடன் அழைக்கிறேன்.
அனைவருக்கும் அன்பான வணக்கம். இந்த அடுத்த நூல் வெளியீடு ஒரு ஆங்கிலத்தில் எழுதப்பட்ட நூல். ஆகையால் இந்த நூல் வெளியீடு மட்டும் ஆங்கிலத்தில் முழுமையாக நடைபெற இருக்கின்றது. அதை முதலில் அறிவித்துக் கொண்டு இங்கு வருகின்ற உங்கள் அனைவருக்கும் முதற்கான நன்றியை தெரிவித்துக் கொண்டு இந்த அப்ரூட் நூல் வெளியீட்டு விழாவை ஆரம்பிக்கின்றோம். நன்றி. Good evening everyone. It is my great pleasure to welcome each and every one of you to the launch of Uprooted, written by remarkable Ana.Pararajasingham. A book launch is always an exciting moment. It is a point where an author's countless hours of research, reflection, and creativity finally meets the eyes, minds, and the hearts of readers. Today we gather to honor that journey of Uprooted. Authors help us to preserve our knowledge, our stories, and our experiences. Supporting them means supporting creativity, culture, and shared human journey. When I first heard about this book and its powerful focus, I was immediately interested. Then I had a chance to read it and to speak with Mr. Pararajasingham, who now lives in Australia. Uprooted shares the extraordinary stories of Sri Lankan Tamils, those who were forced to leave their homeland and rebuild their lives in new countries, as well as those who were born in other countries and have made their own meaningful contributions. The book brings together 34 stories from people of many backgrounds: artists, scholars, politicians, performers, and many. Their experiences reflect the deep loss, painful displacement, discrimination, and conflict that Tamils have faced in Sri Lanka. But through every story, one theme stands out: resilience. The book, the outstanding achievement of Tamils around the world, their success in many fields, their extraordinary contributions to countries where they live now, and their ongoing effort to preserve their culture and identity. This is what the book is all about. By highlighting the accomplishment of these 34 individuals, Uprooted serves as not only an important documentation of history and the struggle, it is also a profound source of inspiration for those who read it. It reminds us of the strength of the community that, despite being uprooted, continue to rise, rebuild, and thrive. Today, Sri Lankan Tamil diaspora has grown into a vibrant community in many parts of the world. Tamil people continue to contribute in countless ways through their hard work, skill, and dedication. The stories in this book represent only a small glimpse of what our community has achieved. Uprooted is not only an important record of our history and struggle, it is truly an inspiration and motivation for everyone who reads it. It is also wonderful to note that the book features 3 distinguished Canadians: Gary Ananda Sangari, Roy Ratnavel, and Dr. Ilaghu Pillai. We are pleased to have 3 members of our community here today to share their reflection on Uprooted. I'm sure you will find their insights meaningful as we celebrate these important publications. Without further delay, let me welcome our first speaker, who is also someone who is profiled in this book, Uprooted, is Mr. Roy Ratnavale. Roy Ratnavale is a retired business executive and author of bestseller Prisoner 1056, and his book, Prisoner, received Brown's Medal for Business Memoir by Action Award. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Roy Ratnavale.
Thank you so much. Elorakam and Vanakkam. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to congratulate the organizers of this inaugural Tamil Book Fair for attracting many talented authors and poets with a message and a story to tell. I'm deeply honored and humbled by this opportunity to speak at this book launch of Uprooted by my friend Ana.Pararajasingham. But I want to give you a disclaimer. My story is also included in this book, so when he asked me first, I felt a little sheepish for promoting the very book that profiles me. But Ana is a very good friend of mine. When I launched my book in Sydney, he was single-handedly helped me to make the book launch in Sydney a great success, so I thought I owe it to him. Having said that, let me now say this. There are no winners in war, only survivors. The Tamil diaspora is one of the many survivors of the Sri Lankan war. Since we arrived on friendly shores, we have been living in two worlds. One with loss, grief, and haunting memories, and the other with peace, prosperity, and profits. One is painful, and the other one is gratifying. Like me, many Tamils often struggle to reconcile between the two worlds. But the courage of Tamils during decades of cultural destruction and devastation in Sri Lanka represented the highest aspirations of the human spirit. Many decades later, dunes of emotion still dominate the global Tamil psyche, somewhere between howling sadness and stunned silence. Not even the passage of time has humbled how horrible truly it was. But we persevered, we went from victims to victors. Uprooted honors this transformation. It acknowledges the pain of displacement, the homes we lost, the families torn apart, the silence and stigma sometimes we carry. But it does not let those losses define us. Instead, it sets dignity, resilience, and achievement front and center. I believe that though past events are unchangeable, they can serve as an important lesson in overcoming life's struggle. While our collective story was unimaginable and unsettling, it was never without hope for humanity. I believe more of these stories must be documented. There should be many more books like Uprooted to tell our collective story to the world from the rooftop. What emerges in Uprooted is not a single narrative of victimhood, but a diverse experience. Stories of loss, yes, but also creativity, dignity, ambition, contribution, and healing. In giving space to survivors and strugglers, to the quiet workers, to the outspoken leaders, Ana.Pararajasingham paints a portrait of a Tamil diaspora that refused to be defined solely by trauma. Instead, we see a community that rebuilt with courage, hard work, and compassion, and transformed roots lost into anchors of identity, belonging, and hope. As a member of the Tamil diaspora, I found this book to be a powerful tribute and a heartfelt homage to the Sri Lankan Tamil diaspora, a community that has endured unimaginable suffering, yet emerged with extraordinary resilience and dignity. Through 34 deeply personal narratives, the author has captured the remarkable journey of those who arrived on friendly shores with empty hands, as well as those born into exile who carried only memories of their homeland, yet went to build successful lives and nurture future generations. These compelling stories serve as a reminder that Tamil diaspora didn't just survive, it thrived, while contributing to societies at large in Canada, the UK, Australia, and beyond, demonstrating that the human spirit can endure a lot. It is very resilient. It can be broken, but not easily. For Tamils, the book acts as a mirror, an authentic, truthful, and also is affirming. For others, it is an essential window into the experience of Tamils whose stories triumph in the lands of freedom and liberty, merit to be heard with respect. Uprooted by Ana.Pararajasingham is a gift to the Tamil diaspora, to those who live through exile, and to future generations seeking to understand who we are and where we come from. It is a testament to our pain and our power. It tugs at your heart, yes, but it also lifts you with pride, with empathy, and tremendous hope. If you care about your identity, loss, and belonging, and the audacious hope of rebuilding, read this book. If you are a Tamil, it will feel like home. If you're not, it will remind you what resilience looks like in the most human and beautiful ways. My heartfelt gratitude to Ana.Pararajasingham, who not only documented our remarkable journey, but also offered me a place within its story, a kindness that really touched me. I carry that gesture with great gratitude. Uprooted is a concise, powerful, and full of heart. It's a must-read that honors the past and inspires the future. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the best revenge is living well. I started this speech with Tamil, so I will end with Tamil. The great lyricist, legendary Kaviyarasu Kannadasan once said, "Ninaippathellam nadanduvittal Deivam edumillai. Nadandadaiye ninaithirundal amaidi endrumillai." Folks, we should be proud of who we are. Though we had went through so many difficult times in our life, look at us. In one generation, in just one generation, we have went from victims to victors. So let's just carry this on. Thank you.
Roy, for that such a inspiring speech. Yes, Tamil diaspora is not just survivors, but the diaspora thrive. And he also noted that the book is a gift for the Tamil diaspora. So I hope all of you buy this book and read it. Certainly, it will be such a inspiration for everyone who reads it, especially the younger generation. And Roy, I must mention this. Roy actually had a conflict because of his travel, because of this book fair in this book launch. He rescheduled his travel arrangement to be here. Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have someone from our next generation, Ravina Ravindran. Ravina Ravindran is a law graduate and currently articling at a law firm and Bay Street, downtown Toronto. Please welcome Ravina Ravindran.
Good afternoon and good evening. Language is a vehicle of memory. It carries a weight of who we've been and the promise of who we might become. For me, it carries two worlds, Tamil and English. Two scripts that taught me to exist in translation. One is rooted in history. The other is restless for belonging. I grew up learning language not just as communication, but it was an inheritance. Every syllable of Tamil was an act of survival, and every word of English was a negotiation of space. That's why reading Uprooted felt like a coming of home to that tension. It was like discovering a ledger of my double life, a record of loss, a catalog of reinvention, and a map of how belonging is rebuilt across generations. Ana.Pararajasingham collection is not just sentimental, it is forensic, tender, rigorous, a study of why people leave and how they recompose themselves in lands that were never designed for their return. It mirrors stories that I've heard at the kitchen table with my parents and conversations with my Tamil friends. The same mix of grief and grace that lives in our parents' silence. Ana.Pararajasingham asked us to recognize patterns of how host countries swing between welcome and suspicion, how the second generation wavers between assimilation and assertion, and how memory becomes the new currency for identity. When language is exiled, art becomes its refuge. When history falters, stories takes its place. So when I read this book, Uprooted begins where it should. It begins with the artists, the ones who turn displacement into language and longing into form. Writers that are very familiar to me, like Shyam Selvathurrai, V.V. Ganeshanathan, and Shobha Sakti, don't just recount exile, they reimagine it. Their novels, performances, and films are the living archives of emotion. They carry a pulse of a people who refused silence. Then comes the healers. Dr. Umesh Arunagirinathan, who arrived in Germany as a teenage refugee, rebuilt a language before he rebuilt a life. He learned German, syllable by syllable, then rebuilt the muscle of a heart that had stopped. He reminds us that service can be a second homeland. When you heal another body, you find your place in a human one. Lakshi Vilmaraja, the mediator, offered a different kind of surgery, one of relationships. Her insistence on listening until the room breathes again felt profoundly Tamil to me. Like what our mothers did at the kitchen table, holding contradiction until it softens. Arun Jagan warned that compassion without consciousness can recreate the hierarchies it hopes to undo. He taught me that empathy must be married to accountability. Then he goes and dives into the thinkers and the teachers, Professor C.J. Elizer, who left when language became law, and Suresh, who turned exile into theory. Their departure was a national indictment, but when a country drives out its scholars, then it exports its own future. It showed me that every Tamil syllable spoken in the diaspora is an act of reclamation, a declaration that we are still here. The survivor story carries the tremor of a memory that no amount of success can steady. Yet what astonished me was their refusal to be defined by pain. Roy Ratnavale turned imprisonment into mentorship. Sean Christie David turned business into social repair. And their lives remind us that resilience is not denial, it is design. It is how a community re-engineers itself after catastrophe. And then we have the activists and the politicians, Danny Sriskandaraja and our very own Gary Anandasangri. Their courage to speak Tamil truth to Western power has inspired me. Even as I understood the loneliness to speaking Tamil truth, but being the only one in a room that misunderstands you by default. Representation, they remind us, is not assimilation, it is translation, carrying ancestral values into civic life without apology. And by the time in this book I reached to the chefs and athletes, I understood that everyday joy is also a revolution. Tarsini, Tanindran baking her way onto television. Tanesh Thanaratnam blending Tamil spices with French cuisine. Vimal Yoganathan blending and sprinting into English football history. These are the quiet victories that roar. They prove that Tamilness is not bound by tragedy. It can taste like sweetness, it can smell like spice, and it can sound like victory. Resistance isn't only protests, marches, or manifestos. It is the gentle insistence on joy, creativity, and visibility. And then the final home recognized me. That answer Uprooted gives. It is tender and unsparing. Because sometimes return is impossible, but remembering is non-negotiable. Remembrance in itself is a political act. To remember truthfully is to resist revision. To remember collectively is to rebuild a community. And I read this book not only as an observer, but I read this as an inheritor. My generation, we stand at a threshold, and our parents carved it with endurance. The people in Uprooted show us what to do with that inheritance, not to romanticize it, not to commodify it, but to mobilize it. Their stories carry an ethic of love, the kind that refuses to forget, refuses to harden, refuses to give up on possibility. And when I think of these 34 individuals, I no longer see them as separate stories. I see them in the same resilient heartbeat that is similar to mine. They teach me that the Tamil story is not one of exile, but expansion, that we were never scattered, we were always seated, and that the homeland is just not a place, it is a community we build wherever we stand. So when I walk into courtrooms, classrooms, or community halls, I carry the artists, the healers, the activists, the politicians, the survivors, the mothers and the fathers who refused erasure. And I will say my name even louder in every room that I come across. Their courage is the quiet anthem beneath every word that I speak here today. And in that way, Uprooted becomes more than just a book. It becomes a promise between generations that even when the world forgets, we will remember. These 34 stories are not just memories, they are seeds. They will not stay buried in the soil of exile. They will rise, they will take root, and one day they will become an uproar. Thank you, Ana, for this gift and inheritance, for I will cherish this for generations to come. Nandri.
Thank you, Ravina. Thank you. You know, everything that people who left the country want the next generation to do far better than that we have done or we have achieved. And it's great to see a younger person here to reflecting on the book based on her reading. Please give her another round of applause. Next, we have our final speaker for the day, Mr. Ken Kandiban. Ken Kandiban is a former Chief Financial Officer and Chief Risk Officer of Ontario Financing Authority, and he's an avid reader of books. So let's hear from Mr. Ken Kandiban. Please welcome.
I just noticed the older generation is having pieces of paper for their speech. The younger generation read us off a phone. That, if anything, encapsulates the division between the generations. Anyway, good evening, everyone. Vanakkam. It's a profound privilege for me to stand before you tonight. When my friend Sivan Ilango asked me to say a few words, I was at first reluctant. The daunting task of reading close to 300 pages of Uprooted and talking about it seemed like a lot of work, especially to someone happily into his third year of retirement. So, work is not my primary concern these days. But, however, from the first page onwards, Uprooted not only gripped me, but also transported me into the lives of these extraordinary Ulam Tamils, both first and second generation, who overcame displacement, racism, the challenge of learning a language, and making a living in a new, at times, unfamiliar culture. Not only did they make a living, they rose above it all and excelled so profoundly that they were honored by their adopted country or the country of exile in which they were born. When I finished Uprooted, I don't believe I have ever been so proud of my heritage as an Ulam Tamil. Tonight, we celebrate the release of Uprooted, Stories from the Sri Lankan Tamil Diaspora, a powerful, meticulously crafted work by the esteemed author and researcher, Ana.Pararajasingham. The word uprooted is heavy. It suggests violence, severance, and loss. It speaks to the sudden, brutal separation of a people from the land that was once the very definition of their being. And a lot of you in the first generation can identify with those words. It captures the trauma of a decades-long conflict, a civil war that scattered sons and daughters, mothers and fathers across every meridian of the globe. But if you read Anna's dedication, you realize that this book is not just about the roots that were ripped out. It is dedicated to all those who remain, who, having endured a brutal war that claimed their kith and kin, continue to rebuild their lives with courage, dignity, and hope. And in honoring those who stayed, Anna's work equally honors those who left, those who carried the memory of that resilience, dignity, and hope into unfamiliar lands. The book is a vital corrective to a single, often tragic narrative. When we speak of the Sri Lankan Tamil or Ulam Tamil experience, the conversation often centers, understandably, on conflict, on the civil war, suffering, and the struggle for justice and for equal rights. But there's a second, equally important narrative, the story of creation and achievement that unfolded in the decades after we were all sent into exile. Ana.Pararajasingham has undertaken the ambitious task of documenting this second story, which is, in my opinion, as equally important as the first story. He presents the diaspora not as a homogeneous mass of exiles, but as a rich, complex mosaic. He takes us beyond the statistics of displacement and into the lives of individuals who have defined what it means to be an Ulam Tamil in the 21st century. Throughout these pages, we meet a remarkable tapestry of talent, organized into distinct sections. I'm now going to tell you about a few of the 34 extraordinary individuals who caught my attention, even more so than their equally illustrious counterparts. I'm not in any way suggesting that the accomplishments of these individuals outshine the others in the book. Rather, that they appeal to me on a personal level. You, on the other hand, and I hope you will buy the book and you will read it, may find yourself more impressed with some of the others featured in the book. You've all heard of Madangi Maya Arulprakasam, or as she's more commonly known, MIA. A story from frequent displacements to living in genteel poverty in a council flat in England to a best-selling Grammy-nominated artist speaks for itself. Equally interesting, however, is Anton Ponraja's journey. Mastering a foreign language, melding historical Swiss memes and stories with the struggles of the Ulam Tamils, and in the process, writing, producing, and acting in award-winning plays in Switzerland is extraordinary. Shankari Chandran, whose family coincidentally has a personal connection with my spouse, forged ahead and wrote about her own community and won awards in Australia. My spouse read The Song of the Sun God and was blown away. Another one of her books, Chai Time at Cinnamon Gardens, is on both of our reading lists, and I suggest that you put it on your list as well and read it whenever you have an opportunity. I was also struck by the stories of Ahilan Arulanandam and Lakshmi Vimalaraja. I believe the previous speaker also referenced them. The former is a winner of the very prestigious US MacArthur Fellowship for $625,000. It's given to one person each year, otherwise known as the Genius Grant, and legal counsel on several human rights cases successfully argued in front of the US Court of Appeals, which is just one level below the US Supreme Court. Lakshmi Vimalaraja is currently the Senior Peace Mediation Advisor at the Berghoff Foundation in Berlin, Germany, an extremely senior position in which she has successfully mediated conflicts all over the world. In the book Uprooted, she has a few principles on which she bases her mediation. I'm not going to talk about them. I'm just going to reference them, and you can find out for yourself. I assure you, it's worth finding out. The next is Dr. Umesh Arunagirinathan, who, fleeing the war-torn north of Sri Lanka, ended up all alone in Germany as a 12-year-old refugee and went on to become a cardiac surgeon, which is a very difficult specialty to graduate in. And the author of a number of books that were very well received in Germany. And this, to me, emphasizes the diversity and the ability of the Ulam Tamils. It is one thing to succeed in an English-speaking country where, except for the UK, the entire population consists of immigrants. I mean, you come to Canada, we are immigrants, everybody is an immigrant, except for the indigenous people. But it's quite another to shine brightly in a country that has been populated by the same people for millennia, who speak a language that is unfamiliar, German, Norwegian, Swiss, French, all of those. Unfamiliar in a society that is insular and not used to welcoming newcomers, particularly those whose skins are perhaps a little bit darker than the general population. Dr. Brinda Shivalingam, an Australian neurosurgeon, elicited my profound admiration. In North America, women currently outnumber men in medical school admissions. However, the practice of surgery remains a male-dominated bastion. The surrounding literature, and on an anecdotal basis, women in my immediate and extended family have commented on the challenges facing women surgeons. For a woman to succeed not only as a surgeon, but in neurosurgery, regarded as the creme de la creme of surgery, is truly, indeed, truly extraordinary. I mean, hats off to. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Gary Anand Sangari, whom I know personally for decades. It is truly a praiseworthy achievement to come to Canada as a refugee and become the Minister of Public Safety in the federal government. I also have a few honorable mentions. Dr. Brent Pradhaban, veterinarian and winner of Britain's 2024 MasterChef Award. Darshini Das Dhanendran, mechanical engineer and finalist in the Den Store Bagadist, the Danish adaptation of the British television bake show, the Great British Bake Off. Amruta Surain Kumar, the first professional Tamil cricketer to represent the English national team. I mean, the mosaic that these Elam Tamils represent is truly extraordinary. You go to any part of the spectrum, they are there. Not only are they there, they excel. These stories are proof that when roots are severed, they don't simply die. They sprout new shoots in the unexpected cracks of foreign sidewalks. The very act of being uprooted became the creative and intellectual fertilizer for a new generation of global citizens. Anna's work brilliantly captures the central tension of diasporic life, the suspension between two realities. For those of us in the first, second, and now the third generation, our identity is often a constant negotiation. We belong fully to the lands that adopted us. I consider Canada as my home. Australia, Canada, US, Germany, Switzerland, Scandinavia, Norway, the UK. Yet, we belong irrevocably to a history that feels both distant and immediate. We are global citizens who live with a collective ghost of memory. This duality is most keenly felt in the generation of our parents and grandparents. In a poignant chapter, Anna touches upon the heart-wrenching annual ritual of the elderly diaspora. They are described as migratory birds. The image of the migratory bird, suspended between the comfort of their new nest and the pull of their ancestral home, is perhaps the most eloquent expression of their uprooted condition. They are tethered by love to one world, their family, and bound by history to their past. Their lives are a beautiful, tragic pendulum swing across the ocean. Before I conclude, I must point out that the paean of praise, which is what my speech has been up to now, must be leavened with at least one rebuttal for it to be balanced. On page 6, Anna states that the impact of standardization was minimal in terms of denying Tamils admission to the university. I beg to differ. Dr. Ana.Pararajasingham's work, Pain, Pride and Politics, which is available on Amazon, informs us that 60% of the total admissions to the medical and engineering faculties in the 1950s and 60s were Tamils. Post-standardization, those percentages reduced to less than 20%. So from 60% to 20%. 40% were denied admission to the university. Post-standardization, like I said, a very significant reduction that took away the prospect of higher education and gainful employment for a very large number of Tamils, leading youth into militancy as the only path towards equal rights for the Tamil minority. I mean, Sri Lanka and Malaysia are the only two countries in the world which have DEI programs aimed at the majority. In every other country, DEI programs are aimed at the minorities in order to bring them up to the level of the majority. The reversal was the truth in Sri Lanka and in Malaysia. On an anecdotal basis, so many of my classmates in Jaffna Hindu, who prior to standardization would have ended up as engineers, lacked the resources to pursue other options, such as accountancy. Lacking gainful employment and little to no prospects for post-secondary education, it was no surprise that they joined the LTT or any one of the other militant movements. I also have a suggestion for Anna's consideration. Please work on part 2 of Uprooted, featuring another set of exceptional Elam Tamils, and there are so many. As you do so, you may want to look at Professor Sir Sabaratnam Arulkumaran, obstetrician and gynecologist, knighted for his services to the UK medical establishment. Dr. Thavam Thambipilla, transplant surgeon in the USA and president of the International College of Surgeons. Dr. Ben Maradappu, UK physician and inventor. Dr. Sinnaraja Raguraj, USA physician and a founding member of the International Medical Health Organization. Dr. Sivanandan, professor of physics, University of Illinois, USA, and President's Award-winning entrepreneur. V.V. Ganeshanandan, I believe you mentioned her as well, who was the award-winning author of one of the best books I have ever read in my life, Brotherless Nights. It brought me to tears because it reflected my experience living as a Jaffna Hindu student in Sri Lanka, in Jaffna, during the height of the Troubles. Seon Navaratnam, well-known Canadian entrepreneur. Dr. Arun Ravindran, psychiatrist and renowned researcher at CAMH. This is just a simple list that I compiled with about 15 minutes of thinking and talking to my spouse and other members of my family, as well as Ilango. There are so many more. I leave it to Anna's due diligence and perseverance to identify all the others out there and expertly compile their stories into part 2 of Uprooted. Thank you for patiently listening to me as I come to my conclusion. I urge you not just to acquire this book, but to absorb it. Read it yourself, encourage your children and your grandchildren to read it as well. Not only for the figures you recognize, but for the countless others who labored in quiet anonymity, whose stories collectively form the foundation of the success of the Tamil Elam diaspora. To be uprooted is to face the ultimate challenge of resilience. It demands that you carry your culture, your language, and your memories within you like precious, unbreakable seeds. This book confirms that those seeds have taken root and they have blossomed into a global forest. It also confirms that not only did we survive, we thrived. Wherever we went, we thrived. Thank you, Anna, for giving us this gift, and thank you all for being here to celebrate the power of these stories. Let us continue to ensure that the journey of the uprooted is never forgotten. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope that all of you will be able to go out. I think the book is available in Amazon, so you should be able to order it, and happy reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Kandiben, for such a comprehensive analysis and your message. And Kandiben mentioned when you read the book, when he read the book, he was so proud to be Elam Tamil. I can guarantee you, when each of you, when you buy this book and read it, you will feel the same. There won't be any different. And also one of the other things that Kandiben highlighted, because a lot of us know about successful people in Canada, or the America, Australia, or UK, but there are equally successful people in other countries, in Germany, Switzerland, and Norway, by learning completely different language in their country, German, French, other languages in their respective country, and how they have, the pain they have suffered, and how they have contributed to those countries and shaped those nations where they call home now. It will certainly make you proud when you read those stories. And these 34 stories are just is a good reflection of what Tamil community went through in Sri Lanka, and also how successful and how they are contributing and shaping those countries where they live now. So I hope all of you will certainly buy those books and read it. And I want to thank our speakers, Roy Ratnavel, Ravina Ravindran, and Ken Kandiben. And we want to sort of release the book in Canada formally. This book was actually printed about 2 months ago. I think Anna had a release in Australia, in Sydney. I think this is the second formal release of the book. I had a chance to talk to him, as I mentioned in my introductory speech. He had 2 criteria when he selected 34 people around the world. One is those who left the country forced to leave the country because of the war, and those who are contributing to the respective countries in their respective through their respective profession. So those are the 2 criteria he had to select people, and it's only a sample to demonstrate about the Tamil community, Sri Lankan Tamil diaspora today in the world, which is quite significant population. So with that, I want to invite a few people to Kandiben. I'm using the phone to hand over the book. We only have few books here, physical copies, but books are available on Amazon, and I encourage all of you. And it will be a good Christmas gift if you want to give something to younger generation. It will be a truly a motivational speech for them. I encourage all of you to buy and hand over. With that, I'm pleased to invite Dr. Kirubanandan Kumaraswamy to come and accept the copies, special copy. And then next, Jaso Sinaturai to come and accept the copy, and followed by Mr. Sangar Naladampi. I have few names, but I'll go one by one. Yeah. Followed by Mr. Vasan Paramesh. Yeah. Ms. Jaso Sinaturai. Mr. Sangar Naladambi. Mr. Vasan Paramesh. Mr. Lionel Fernando. Mr. Bahi Kandabal. Ana.Pararajasingham. Mr. Mani Subha. Anpalagan Kumaraswamy and Mr. Dishan Navaranaraja. Thank you, and we